Thank you so much, Lauren. So, welcome on board for everyone who just currently tuned in, and thank you so much for tuning in, especially for episode number 3. I think most of our panelists and Lauren did an awesome job by introducing my panelists for this section 3. Yeah. So, for all those who just recently tuned in, we have once again Nicholas, Alvin, Hanson, and Stephanie. Now, all of our panelists did request, because this is like our final session for today, so we are gonna try to keep it as fun and as light and easy as possible. Okay, so before we start, I know that Lauren has already did a little bit of a quick brief and also a little bit of a background, but let's just get right in for our participants to get to know more about our panelists, and we'd like to encourage our participants to fully utilize your Q&A section and also the chat to ask our panelists any questions at any time. All right, so let's start with Stephanie. Stephanie, would you be able to share with us a little bit more detail apart from your name? Tell us more in detail about what do you do and how long have you been doing, and what are you doing?
Sure can do. Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Caunter. Currently I head customer strategy and marketing at AIA Malaysia. So really my job is all about how do I make our customers our lifelong partners and turn them into very highly engaged and active promoters of our brand. So I've been doing this for a long time, more than 15 years in marketing itself. But I started my career as an engineer a very long time ago. And outside of my day job, I'm a mom of 2 young girls, and they inspire me to keep fighting for a more equal world. So I also sit on the board of advisors for Lean In Malaysia, which is a non-profit that advocates for gender equality. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Love the enthusiasm and also the background of how your kids are inspiring you as well, Stephanie. Okay, let's move on. Let's start for the males with let's go by alphabetical order if that's okay. So let's start with Alvin. Yeah, Alvin, how would you be able to maybe elaborate more apart from your name? What do you do and how long have you been doing and what are you currently doing?
Hi guys, my name is Alvin. I work at GroupM as Biddable channel manager or performance team. That is, I managing key account of GroupM like L'Oreal, Jarum, Wings, Greenfields, and many more. And before I'm joining at GroupM, I work at Tokopedia as internet marketing strategist to managing traffic, revenue, and transaction from digital channel. So hopefully my experience, I make knowledge, can bring contribution in this panel. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Alvin, for sharing and also elaborating more about yourself. All right, so before we move on to the next person, huge shout out especially to Stephanie from Mega into the group chat, and also Johannes. Yep, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Stephanie, Daniel, Alvin, and Nicholas. All right, so let's move on to the next one, Hanson. Yes, Hanson.
Hey guys, so my name is Hanson. I'm at Xendit. I've been here for about 9 months. My experience has been a bit all over the place, but in short, my experience has been about optimizing large-scale systems. So I've been in operations, manufacturing. I entered digital marketing when it was at its nascent stage, and now I'm at Xendit leading growth strategy. You might have heard us raising just a Series C over last week. So that's actually my role now to propel us towards the next stage of growth. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hanson. And last but not least, Nicholas. Yes, we are going to save the best introduction for last year.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Well, my name is Nicholas Tan, and I'm the Senior Director for SME Enterprise Development at Fusionex. Basically, what I do is I assist SMEs and customers alike to adopt big data and analytics insights, focusing on the loyalty marketing space. And I've been doing this for more than 12 years now, so more than a decade. So yeah, thank you very much to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicholas. And thank you once again, all dear panelists, for doing a very quick, brief introduction and more in depth so that our participants who are joining us right now are able to understand what kind of background you're in, and they can direct those questions over to you. So once again, to all our participants who just recently tuned in, we are right now onto the section 3. And if you have any questions at all, please put it into the Q&A, which is the Q&A section. And if you'd like to do a quick shout out, I'll put it into the chat box, but we would highly encourage you to put it into that Q&A. Now, today as my role as the moderator, I'm not as a panelist, so I'm gonna try my best to limit my talking time, and give you guys more airtime, because our participants here today are here to see you guys and not just to meet me alone. All right, so let's jump right into the questions. First of all, in your perspective, what is the meaning of and probably the definition of data insight, or as the title over here put as big data? Let's start with probably Hanson.
Sure. I think I was just coming in over from the last panel, and I've kind of heard a little bit about what they were saying and how they were saying that maybe the word data itself is challenging, it's scary, you don't know where to start. So what is big data? I think like big data, it sounds even more challenging than just data alone, right? The way I think about it is that is this complex data set that is usually harder to process in standard conventional softwares that you use. But I think, not to scare people off, in terms of like data insights, what I think about it, I always pair up insights with something that's actionable. So to me, insights, it has to be actionable. It is specific, relevant enough, such that they lead to actions, and that those actions will increase the efficiency, revenue, as well as the profits of the company.
All right, thank you for sharing, Hanson. Alvin, would you like to jump in to elaborate more or top up what Hanson has just elaborated?
Yeah, for my perspective about the big data, or maybe for the insight information, that is a lot of information. And because it is a lot, we need creativity, experience, and also the technical things to managing the big data or a lot of data to become a valuable information. So experience, we need to see or to adjust the priority list for the what we need, what the customer need, like that. So we need experience, and also we need technical things to make our work easier. That is easier from the a lot of data to transfer to become useful information. And also we need creativity, because with the creativity we can see the hook or the opportunity for the next guide or next step for our business decision. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Now, Stephanie, having said that you're also in the insurance or probably like AIA industry as well, yeah? So in your perspective, because we have also people from different kind of field, all your organizations are all very different, from Hanson, Alvin, then we have Stephanie and Nicholas, all different kind of field. So in your perspective, Stephanie, how would you define the meaning of the data definition insight, and also probably in the terms of big data?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with what Hanson said. Big data can be a very scary term for people, right? Because it's all about dealing with huge volumes of data that are coming in very fast, changing very regularly. You can't, manipulate and analyze this with traditional tools, right? Like your Excel sheets. So very often, if possible, you need a data science or analytics team. But not every business needs to deal with such huge amounts of data, and not every organization can afford to, invest in a data science team, right? Especially if you're, say, an SME with a very niche audience, or if you're a new startup, or you're just building your customer base. But just because you don't need to deal with big data doesn't mean that you should neglect the data. So I'm a huge fan of actually, using that data to guide our business decisions, and not just letting your own gut instinct lead the way. So I want to give you an example, so if all of you in the audience, think of the term mothers. And if you take out your gadget, your phone, or your laptop, or whatever gadget you're on, and Google the term mothers right now, just do it right now and tell me, what are the images that pop up for the term mothers? So if you do this exercise, right? Yeah, what do you see?
Okay, I'm doing right now with you, yeah. While the other participants are also doing it as well. So, dear participants, if you are still watching together with us, take out your mobile phones and put in mothers. All right. So over here, what I see is mothers, car polishers, waxers, cleaners, mothers polish. We have Wikipedia for mothers, 40 special.
Okay, look under images. Sorry. Yeah, go to the images tab. What do you see in images?
Oh, okay. So on images, the first thing that I see is milk, essential steps, quotes 35 heartfelt mother son, mainly onto quotes and all and images.
Yeah. So a lot of quotes, some of you probably see pictures of happy women with their small kids, right? It's sort of very like stereotypical. And this is Google, right? Google's pulling together all the images, relevant images according to the word mothers. So if we just use that term, understanding of mothers, in our business to say, create our products that target mothers, we only have this very one-dimensional view of mothers, right? The truth is that moms take many shapes and forms. I'm a mother. I'm not always happy and smiling with my young kids, although I love them, right? So you really need to dig into the data to understand. Me as a mother, I have many different facets. I'm a professional. I love fitness outside of work. I spoke about gender equality. So really, it's about how do you use that data to understand your customers better. And you don't have to have, like I said, you don't have to have a huge data science team in order to start building that understanding of your own customer base.
Thank you for sharing that and also that quick activity as well, Stephanie. If you take a look onto the chat box, a lot of our other participants has replied. Nicholas, okay, let's jump right into you because you have 12 years of experience as well, yeah? And that's what you've also shared that's what Lauren has shared with us when we did the introduction, and you also shared as well. Would you like to top up from what the other three panelists has just voiced out and also shared with us?
Sure, and I think the three other of my panelists has actually summed up what big data is very accurately. I think big data is actually different to everyone, to every organization. Like what you see in the example earlier, you see a whole lot of different examples coming up. And whereas when I did it, the first thing, the image that popped up is a mother's recipe tamarind paste. and that's probably because of what I normally browse in terms of recipes and all that. But basically to us from Fusionex, which is a technical data company, to us data insights and big data are two different things altogether. And it's always been synonymously grouped together, and big data is data insights, big data. But without a doubt, these two topics do go hand to hand in respect to any organization. But what big data is, as what the other panelists have said, is all sorts of different kinds of data, whether it's structured that is available in your organization, whether it's historical data, transactional data, and so on, to all these other unstructured data as what we have just seen, images of mothers, happy mothers, with the kids and so on and so forth, on social media, mentions or anything at all. Whereas data insights is, and I think just to expound on what Stephanie mentioned earlier, is that, mothers come in all different forms and all that. And data insights is what we do to basically drill down into these big data sources, making sense of it and telling organizations, what they think they know, or what they know, and more importantly, what they don't know at all. So like what Stephanie said, mothers, when you Google the word mothers, it shows images of, a lady with the kids and all that. But potentially there are other things like, recipes. For example, the second picture I have is a mother's MAC aluminum alloy polish. Has nothing to do with mothers whatsoever, unless you're seeing my mother polishing the stovetop or whatnot. But so big data insights is something that you do with your big data to basically understand areas that you think you already know, or you think that you don't know, but more importantly is to understand those areas that you never even thought that it would actually deal with your organization. So to us, data insights just drill down into big data and make sense of it all. So that's my take on what these two definitions are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Nicholas, let's keep, since you're already unmuted. Yeah, you're already unmuted. Let's get you to kickstart this question from Karen while we get our other panelists to answer later on as well. Let's start with you, Nicholas. From Karen, where she sent in the first question over here is it possible to get real-time information from big data? How to approach real-time information from big data?
Well, it is possible to get real-time information from big data, right? So, for example, some sorts of big data are like, say, location data, right? Those are big data where everybody is generating location data every day. You snap a photo, there's geographical data that's attached to those photos, and those are location data. When you're traveling or when you walk in a store, basically, and especially today in the so-called COVID time, where every time you walk into some place, you are actually checking in, right? You scan My Sejahtera, you scan Sri Lanka, and basically that captures data, and everybody is doing it, and that's essentially big data and real-time information that you are walking into a particular location. So it is possible to get real-time information from big data with the right approaches and with the right tools, like you have a mobile app or you have a loyalty app whereby when you're walking into a store, the app knows that you are in the vicinity of the store or inside the store, and thus pushing out information to you, whether it's promotions, campaigns, and so on. So it is possible to get real-time information from big data in that sense that what you're doing is collecting it on the fly. And when customers are checking in or customers are doing an action and interacting with you in that particular moment.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Hanson, would you like to jump in?
Sure. Yeah, so I think adding on top of what Nicholas says, it is indeed possible, but maybe the question should be, should this be something that you go for? And I think this might be something that comes up again and again in this topic when we think about cost. And as we know that when we are talking about big data, we are talking about large data sets that's coming through, whether it's your data warehouse or whether it's your database or data lake. The question is that when you process such large sets of data, does your cost increase proportionally, or does your cost increase exponentially? And I think cost as a business, I think that's something that we always keep in mind. So I think what we do is that we selectively choose data points that we'll want to have in real time. Otherwise, we are good enough with them coming in as batch data, maybe at the end of the day or even up to a week, for example.
Thank you, Hanson. I'm going to divert the question and rephrase the question a little bit to Stephanie. Yeah. So Stephanie, in your industry, yeah, then Alvin, you can take over by wrapping things up by giving your thoughts onto it, onto both sides of the initial question that was thrown out, and also following up onto Stephanie's question as well. So Stephanie, in your industry where you're doing like sales and where insurance, to me, where I believe that you go and meet customers and everything as well, correct? So is it possible for you in your industry to get real-time information from big data, and how do you approach your real-time information from big data?
Well, so first of all, I don't do the actual sales myself, right? So I do marketing, and we work with our agents to do the sales, right? So there are several different platforms, by which we collect data from our customers. We have our AIA app. So if you're an AIA customer, the app is a great place, allows you to self-service. It's also the home of our fantastic AIA Vitality program, which rewards people, for living healthier lifestyles. You can get weekly rewards, every week for hitting a certain number of steps and stuff like that. So the app is really good for us, and that's one way we collect data. And we also have multiple other tools that we run. We run fun little, these assessments, like we have a financial health check for our customers that says, hey, if you want to know how you're doing in terms of your finances and your insurance protection compared to other people who are in the same age range and same income level as you, take the simple assessment. It'll tell you, how you're doing. So our customers love that because it helps them know if they're prepared for the future, and for crisis and all that. But it also gives us valuable data on them. So for insurance, I don't need it to be super like real time. I don't need to know if my customer is walking into my AIA office, because they don't actually come to the AIA office much, right? What I do need is I need to be able to gather, like Hanson said, the right sorts of information that allows me to create better propositions, better products, or even to send that information to my agents who are then going to make the sale. So yeah, for me, it's more about collecting the right sorts of data, and also how do I encourage my customers to keep sharing that data with me. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. And Alvin, let's get you to wrap things up for that question.
Yes, so I think that we can gather data in the real time. For example, like in the one tools, like Google Analytics, for example, we can see the right data and the currently how the performance, how the transaction, and how they doing in our website or app. So it is possible then we can see about the right data in the current situation. We can adjust, for example, adjust the content if not works, or maybe adjust the source of media if it is not achieve the goal, for example, like that. We can adjust that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your insight, Alvin. Okay, I'm gonna throw this next question. It was also brought up by Karen, to Hanson, since Hanson brought up the word like data warehouse, So Karen did pose out this question: does big data is data warehouse and data science modeling?
I think it encompasses quite a few things. So I think understanding like big data and what you want to do out of it includes like multiple processes, right? First, I think you need a place to store all your data. And this depends on what size your data is. So it could be a database, it could be a data warehouse, it could be a data lake. So different tiers in terms of where you want to store your data. And then you need to be able to extract your data, right? So there's a term called ETL, extract, transform, and load. This is when you want to start manipulating or massaging your data, trying to retrieve, make queries out of your data sets and trying to figure out what is it exactly that you want. And then once you extract this data, where do you want to load it to? Is it a reporting platform? Do you want to look at insights? This is where your tools like, for example, Power BI comes in. You start to understand your data a little bit more, trying to find out consumer insights. And then the question is, what do you then do with it? I think from a marketing lens, what you want to do is basically we want to go to market with certain things, right? One, it could inform you of your creative messaging, for example. The other one is your audience targeting. And when you are embarking on, say, a digital marketing channel, you have this kind of first-party data to use to be able to find similar audiences, for example. And then how do you then push this kind of data sets into these marketing channels in order for you to reach the right kind of audience? So I think the usage of big data has a few different kind of applications, and that's in short, that's what I think kind of looks like in terms of like the value chain.
Thank you, Hanson. Alvin, would you like to top up from what Hanson just inputted?
Sure. Yeah. Big data is a lot of information, and data warehouse is the data what we have. So yeah, the big data is more a lot and more bigger than the data warehouse itself. So yeah, that's my answer. Hopefully can answer.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Stephanie, anything to top up from there, Stephanie?
Not much to add. I think Hanson's the pro here.
Nicholas?
Well, I think, yeah, when we talk about big data and data warehouses, as what Stephanie put right at the start of this session, SMEs tend to, fear those words because, you think this is going to be highly costly, it's going to be, highly technical, you may need to employ key people to just help you make sense of all this. What I would like to say here is that, for SMEs and whatever not, you're not alone out there. You have partners out there that you can work with, partners like us where, we can come in and help you and host it. No doubt, big data, you will need data warehouses, you will need data sets to actually connect the dots and to make sense of it, to understand, the different processes, to understand how you want to target, say, whether it's your customers, whether you just understand your customers more. You need to have all that. but it's not something that you need to do it alone. That's what I want to say. It's where we have sessions like this where people learn from each other, and we are definitely here to help. So please reach out. It's not a journey that you should take on your own, and just reach out, and we will definitely be here to help you.
All right, thanks, Nicholas. Okay, now this next question is from Su Ming Ko. My apologies if I got your name wrongly pronounced, yeah, but I'm trying my best to get your name pronounced correctly. I'm gonna open it to any panelists, and let's do it like a game show kind of stuff, so you guys can just unmute yourself and answer at any time, because I think this question is really, really interesting. Okay, so to all our panelists over here, while we can collect and analyze vast amount of data, how do we ensure we do not accidentally, the keyword over here, accidentally violate any PDPA law? Oh, I see Nicholas putting a little bit of a smirk and smile. Yes,
Sorry,
Stephanie, yes, you got yourself unmuted. Yes.
Yeah, I just start first. So I think, if it's your customer data, your first party customer data, it's absolutely crucial that you get the right sort of consent to use that data, right? So you got to start with that to make sure you're not going to violate any PDPA law. And beyond violating PDPA, I mean, no customer wants to be spammed, bombarded with irrelevant messaging over and over again. And I can tell you, there are examples, I'm a customer as well, of providers that will, constantly call me up and offer me certain services which I've turned down in the past. So, let's be very careful about that. But first and foremost, if it's your own first-party customer data, get their consent. Now, if you're working with, a third-party data provider, perhaps, or you're working with your media agency to help you, I think today, third-party data providers, they work with aggregated data. So I used to come from ADA, which is part of Axiata Digital. We're big data analytics company. So a lot of our data is all aggregated and anonymized, so that there's no personally identifiable information in there. So I might know where you're moving, where a customer is moving, where they spend a lot of their time, what sorts of behaviors they're doing online, what sorts of apps they use, but I wouldn't know that person's specific name, their specific address, anything that is personally identifiable information. So that's, so that helps when you're dealing with third-party data providers.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, Nicholas, I see you unmuting. Oh, thank you so much. I don't have to call out your names. You guys can just unmute at any time, and makes my task a little bit much more easier. Like I mentioned, it's more or less like a game show. Like Nicholas, right now, you're pressing the red button. Bam, I'll answer this.
Well, I completely agree with Stephanie. I think, when it comes to personal data, a lot of people get confused with the fact that, when you are offering data out, and when you are filling up forms and all that, those are things that you fill up. But when it comes to big data, most of us deal with aggregated data. So when you deal with aggregated data, you can't identify the person. But of course, if you're getting calls and SMS specifically from particular vendors or merchants or whatever not, and targeting you and calling you by name, but you have never talked to them before, that's clear, blatant violation, right? They have gotten your data somehow. And the definition of personal data is anything related to that particular individual, right? So it's my name, my address, my IC numbers, my phone numbers, and all that kind of stuff. But if it is something where, I transact at a store, where if I go to a grocery store and I always buy Gardenia bread, for example, or just Massimo bread or whatever not, and the store sends, has a promotion on it or whatever not, and he sends it out or reach out, but it is maybe in a general term, not personally targeted to me, then I think that's still fine. Aggregated data is something that we all work with all the time. And like what Stephanie said, with aggregated data, you won't be able to identify who that person is. It's just that, there are males between 30 to 35 or whatever not that likes to eat gardenia bread once a week, that kind of thing. So as long as you don't misuse those information that you have, constantly, and also respect the fact that if the consumer tells you, okay, I don't wish to be, contacted anymore, then stop. Otherwise, then it becomes, intrusion of a PDPA per se.
Thank you, Nicholas. Now, just a quick shout out for all those who just listening to in. Keep your questions ongoing into the chat box. I think it's really awesome for you guys to throw in the questions. If not, then I'm gonna throw in my personal questions. But this time it's for all our participants to throw whatever questions and inquiries that you have to our professional panelists. Now, Stephanie and Nicholas, I know that you guys are from Malaysia. I'm also from Malaysia as well. But Hanson and Alvin, both of you come from Indonesia, correct? You guys are from Indonesia. Now, is there any difference between the question raised up and also violating any of the PDPA law between Malaysia and Indonesia? What are your thoughts into it? Who would like to go first, Hanson or Alvin?
I was hoping to go last because I was going to offer a different kind of alternative, but okay, let me go ahead. I think in terms of PDPA, I don't think that it is as mature as in Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia, but I think the principle is still the same, right? So I think what the industry has been moving towards is as what Stephanie and both Nicholas said. First, consent, that is very important, especially when dealing with first-party data. I think also the technology has matured enough that I think there's the right levels of encryption and anonymized data for us to work with. Now, what I wanted to offer as an alternative viewpoint is that I think in general, I think a lot of studies have shown that consumers do appreciate timely and relevant data, relevant ads, right? So having that fact, that gives us some room to play with, that gives us some leverage, that they are looking for information. How do we then get this information across to them in a way where they can feel that kind of like authenticity from us? I think ultimately that's what we want to do. So I love the examples about like having people call you up on your phone, because before like the digital marketing, this is how people used to do calls, right? And I think even now in Indonesia, that still happens. So what I wanted to highlight is that nowadays you can still buy third-party data, right? And I think third-party data is a quick way in which you want to scale if you don't have first-party data. And I think that becomes a little bit more difficult when you don't own the data and you buy it from someone else. You are not sure about the quality that it has. So I think if you guys are in this kind of position where I'm starting out a business, I want to quickly get a broad audience, but I want it to be a niche audience and I need to look for third-party data, I think be very careful in terms of sourcing your vendors, understanding the kind of tech that they use, how are they sourcing their data? Is it their own data? Are they buying it from other sources as well? And I think that is very important in terms of being maybe not exactly legally like PDPA following closely, but I think in terms of principles, you want to respect each individual's privacy.
Sorry, can I just add on to what Hanson said? Because I actually really agree with the whole notion of being very careful when you go and, purchase third-party data or leverage on third-party data. So let's say you're trying to acquire new customers, which obviously you don't know because they're new, right? They're new to your business. So you go and, work with, I don't know, a third-party data provider. So of course, a lot of them will claim, hey, we have the best, data sets and we can help you acquire all these fantastic new customers. Now, there was a recent study done by MIT, Melbourne Business School and GroupM. Okay, and the researchers there wanted to test the accuracy of third-party data. So what do you think they found? When it came to gender, whether you're male or female, what is the accuracy? 50%. So 50% whether you're male or female. I mean, you know what I mean? And then when it came to, I think age targeting is worse. It's only 25% accurate. So in that case, a lot of third-party data, there are limitations. So I would say don't put all your hopes, and your strategy into that. It's very important that if you're building a new business, trying to acquire new customers, you need to invest in also your own brand and making sure that your customers are aware of you. And you don't need to go hyper-targeted. You just need to get more and more people to be aware of your brand and create a fantastic product or deliver a fantastic service. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. I love the concept where you guys can jump in at any time. Especially, Stephanie said, "Can I add on from there?" Oh, gets me very, very excited. Now, Alvin, I see you smirking away and putting on a little bit of smiles and looking like thinking towards that direction. Your IQs, your eye assessment cue of when someone speaks, you're trying to absorb something and it looks like something hit you. Would you like to add on from what were your thoughts while the other panelists were sharing?
Yeah, so I think that for the data law in Indonesia, and especially from the Indonesian, I think that if we use data with very wise, like we offer the relevant ads and also relevant targeting, I think we help our audience to solving their problem because we utilize the data with the wise way. So yeah, we helping each other, and it must be problem if we not wise to utilize the data. For example, we bombard with the message SMS, or maybe we send many ads with no relevant targeting. It's very annoying, I think. So yeah, this combination.
Thank you, panelists, for giving your thoughts on to Malaysia and also Indonesia. Between the question of what Suming Ko, a huge shout out to Suming for this really interesting question. The question again for all those who miss out is, while we can collect and analyze vast amount of data, how do we ensure we do not accidentally violate any PDPA laws? And our panelists has covered onto the Malaysia side and Indonesia side as well. Now, before we get into the following questions of the participants, I have a question to all our panelists for whoever that join us today, but may be still new to the term of data or this big data or all this kind of all this kind of terminology. Yeah. My question to you panelists, any one of you could take, maybe Nicholas, Alvin, Hanson, or Stephanie. See who would like to jump in first. We'll take all 4 different answers. What in your background or in all your term of while you were working in this industry and your expertise, what do you think is the biggest misinterpretation, misconception, or the biggest stigma when it comes to the word data or this big data and how people use it? What is the biggest stigma or misconception? Who would like to take this?
I can go. So sorry, I hope you don't mind. So for me, I think one of the biggest misperceptions is that when you have the data, you will get all the answers. And, that's not possible because, you can basically kind of interrogate or manipulate the data to give you any answer. What is more important is that you need to know the questions to ask of the data. So actually, I think as a marketing person, actually, we are probably some of the best, people in the best position to ask the right questions. Because one, you need to know, okay, what is my consumer, what matters to my consumer, right? And most of us marketers, we're there to understand the customer or the consumer. So we're knowing what matters to them so you can ask the right question. Secondly, you need to understand the business you're in. So if you're in a business and you don't understand the products you're selling or the types of services, or you're not sure about your competitors or the landscape, that's going to be really tough. But if you know those things, then you know what sort of hypothesis that you have in mind, and then you just go and look at the data to tell you whether your hypothesis is right or not. So for me, that's the biggest misperception. The data alone will give you all the answers. Not possible. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe to add on to what Stephanie said, I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, a lot of people think that once I have big data, once I analyze this data, I go into data insights, I have my data science guys pull up all these kind of things. I will know what's going to happen. Data itself or big data itself is not a crystal ball. You won't be able to tell what's going to happen tomorrow. We hear a lot of these people saying that, we look at the trends and all this kind of thing, and then we can predict what's going to happen. Yes, to a certain extent. But there are a lot of factors that comes into play. It's not just about how the trend is working. A simple a simple turn of events could actually trigger a completely different trend altogether. So yeah, I think the biggest misconception is what Stephanie said. People think that data is crystal ball. Once you understand it, you'll be able to, get all the answers. But more importantly, I think a lot of people out there don't understand that. With data, you may be able to find out things that you didn't even know that you didn't know. So just a simple example, I dealt with a client previously, and they were looking at their historical data of over many years, and basically they took that data and they wanted us to confirm their market segment, the targeted market segments in terms of their customers. And when we analyzed the data and we went through the data, the market segment that they thought that was their key market segment to actually target was completely wrong. And a segment that they didn't even realize or didn't even focus on was the new champion segment in the organization. So I mean, data in itself can be misleading. As what Stephanie said, you think that it's showing something and you can manipulate it in such to show what you want it to show. But if you keep it objective and you keep it, trying to just cover everything, you will be surprised sometimes that the data is showing things that are completely opposite of what you feel or what you think about your own organization. So yeah, those knowing data doesn't necessarily give you all the answers, and potentially it may even give you some answers that you never even thought of getting at all.
Thank you, Nicholas. Yes, Alvin, I see you unmute, but just a huge shout out. We do have a few comments over here. Agree, data is not the answer, and also data is new junk. All right, yes. Okay, Alvin, I saw you unmuting yourself. So sorry for jumping right in. I just wanted to do shout out for all those who are putting the chats and getting the Q&A and chat box active, yeah? Yes, so Alvin, over to you, Alvin.
Yeah, I think that misconception in data, or maybe data analyst in my industry, that is digital marketing. So many people think we need high price or maybe high valuable the tools. So yeah, we need expensive tools, expensive resource. So if you're starting, I think for to avoid this misconception, is you starting analyze the big data or maybe greater data, you can use the free tools and reliability tools. For example, it's Google Analytics. In the Google Analytics is free, or you can use the other tools like maybe the Google Ads dashboard, or maybe for the use the Facebook Ads dashboard, for example, like that. This is free if you have the data, and also Google Analytics is free and have the premium quality tool and premium price too. So yeah, the misconception in my industry is many people think that the big data is very expensive to start. So no, I mean, because the tools have free, and also it is possible to use as soon as possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Alvin, for sharing. I see Nicholas and Stephanie also nodding their head while you are giving your answer. Hanson, okay, since Alvin has already jumped into that answer and kind of leads towards the next question, maybe you can do a 2-in-1 kill right now, yeah? Answer that with the first, your answer can answer about my question. What is the biggest interpretation or misconception and also stigma about data? And the second question, where Alvin has covered pretty much a little bit portionly, this question was asked by Karen Ho. How do we kickstart and quick bites on big data with limited skill and budget?
Cool, thanks. I love the idea of killing two birds with one stone. And I was trying to wrap my head around it about how maybe we can make this a more interesting discussion as well. So I couldn't agree more with whatever Stephanie, Alvin, Nicholas said earlier. I think I was trying to come up with another misconception, and I think those are maybe the two biggest ones already. But I do agree that data in itself is objective, right? And I love the story that Stephanie gave earlier on, or the example that she used with when you search mothers, what happened. because that introduces us the word biasness, right? And biasness comes from humans. So it is the way in which we are looking in like our data, trying to query it, trying to figure out what's important for us. That is actually the one that's making it subjective, right? So that's where I think maybe the misconception comes about, that data is a cure-all for everything, but it's not. It's still up to us humans to try to figure out what is the right way to use the data in a way that benefits the organization, also benefits the larger society. Secondly, about pricing, I think that's true. It depends on the stage of growth of your company. I think if you want it to be expensive, it can be expensive. You know the impossible triangle of project management, right? Cheap, good, and fast. You pick two. You can get it cheap and good, but don't expect it to be fast. I think there's incremental ways in which you can try to grow your data science capabilities. Maybe not call it data science, but analytical capabilities, because I think every organization needs it, no matter how large your data sets could be. So I think Alvin has covered like a number of resources and tools that I think there are quite a lot of free tools out there, not just tools, but also resources. So there's HubSpot Academy, there's Facebook IQ, Facebook Blueprint. Google has a few different kind of like workshops. They have a digital garage, they have a primer app. There's a lot of ways in which you can pick up all these things. But I think what I wanted to stress is probably you need to start to increase maybe the foundational statistical understanding of whoever is making the decisions in your company. And I think having that, so in talking about biasness again, right? So just understanding the idea of biasness in data can help a lot in terms of making the right kind of decisions. For example, if you're building a survey and you're only targeting the surveys to males, that already introduces biasness, and you can only imagine like what kind of results it would give you if you are not sampling the right kind of audience. So I think having the right kind of like basic understanding of statistics and how you're going to use it, that gives you the baseline for you to connect with cross-functional team leaders, right? So I like to see, I like to work with people as well who actually have that kind of understanding, even though we are in different fields of expertise, but we connect on how we can actually interpret data. And it's also, I think, important to understand that using data to interpret a certain kind of observation or phenomenon is not that it ends there. It's, I think, a continuous cycle of data validation. Then you do a bit more research, you try to validate it. If I were to use a little bit of example, I'm not sure if you've heard about this particular example. It's called the Monty Python problem, right? Actually, basically talking about conditional probability. I have 3 doors open, and I open one of the doors. Behind the door, only one of these doors contain like a sheep or a goat or something. And I open one of the doors and show the participant saying that, oh, this door doesn't have a sheep behind it. Would you want to change your decision? And most people won't change their decision. But statistically speaking, it is always best for you to change the door, right? So having understand, this gives you the kind of basic understanding that like once you have more data coming in, you need to change the way that you're thinking about certain things, right? With more data, there's always more information for you to process, for you to consider, and therefore it's always a continuous process of improvement, trying to validate your data with either new experiments or new research. Yeah, so I hope I've managed to like cover both questions in a more interesting manner.
I believe you did, because I see the other panelists nodding their head. Unfortunately, I'm unable to see all the other participants, but I'm pretty sure the participants are also nodding their head behind the cameras as well. Yeah. Okay. Now, looking at the time, we are a little bit running short of time because we are supposed to end it by between 12:05 to 12:10. But let's do something a little bit much more exciting. Now, I do understand that the panelists, you guys are on for this last segment, while the other participants, some of them, they've been here for about 3 different sessions already throughout the day. for some of them. Yeah, let's try to kill like what Hanson said. He likes the terminology and the terms of where we kill two birds with one stone. And we have Tati Razak and Dennis Teo who did put in a question. Let's do a 3-in-1 right now, where we are not just do onto just about talk. Let's try to see whether if we can implement to give them maybe some snippets on how to go about with big data. Would that be okay, panelists? If you guys are okay, maybe let's get some nod on the heads and some small. I see Stephanie just now and said 3-in-1. She's like, what? Okay, so are we able to answer some questions and also at the same time give some examples, some hands-on, so that our participants right here, they are able to do maybe their own self-group work and see how does it actually work, yeah? So for example, if you guys are talking about Google Analytics or maybe like Facebook and everything as well, different kind of platforms, correct? Are you able to maybe show examples or maybe give some step-by-step example? If each of you can give 4 different examples, we'll be able to have 4 different possibilities on how our participants can collect the data. Covers onto the question of Tati Raza, how does one able to determine if it's a misleading data? So maybe through your example, they'll be able to identify that. Also covers a little bit onto Dennis Teo's question, how to extract data to become an insight. Do we have some tools for extracting the data? So if we can put it into practical, they'll have 4 different examples. And if you guys would like to share your screen, it's also possible. If not, then you can just give it more like a verbal example. And while you give the example, I hope our participants, they are able to do it practical work at the same time as well. Yeah. So who would like to start first? Let's go. Maybe who would like to start? You can start with unmuting yourself. I see you guys putting some deep thoughts. While our panelists are thinking who to go first, huge shout out once again to all those participants. Thank you so much for joining us onto our panel 3. And we are still trying to take in some comments and also questions. Put it in. Our panelists will try to answer you directly, either through the group chat or the Q&A session. Just keep it on ongoing. And I see Nicholas unmuting himself. I should not talk so much, and I'm gonna give the airtime over to Nicholas.
Okay, so maybe just to try to answer this and to give a simple practical example. Yeah. So how do you determine misleading data? Basically, how do you extract data insights and all that? Taking what Hanson and Alvin has mentioned in terms of Google Analytics, one simple example you can actually do is you can actually use your Google Analytics data to understand, let's say, the time people visit your website, right? And you can actually just use Excel, a simple tool, to plot all the number of the times versus the frequency people visit the website. And basically then from there, you can actually do a simple, say, a bar graph or a pie chart to show you what time, or maybe, an hour per se, within that has the highest hits of people to your particular website. And then what use is this to you? You can then use that hour to push up, say, information or announcement on your websites, which will give you the highest bang for your buck per se. I mean, that would be a simplest way of using big data, like a tool like Google Analytics and a simple Excel spreadsheet to basically plot when customers visit your website and what do they see. You can even add on another dimension to say what they see at your website. If you are having a store or e-commerce or whatever not, that's even more powerful. Now you know what sort of items they actually visit to. Now, as you plot this on a graph or on a spreadsheet or a bar chart or whatever not, ultimately you will have some data points that are well out of the norm. Now, some people might say these are outliers. Some people might say these might be data that you can ignore. To me, there is no such thing as misleading data. It is just telling you a different side of a story. There could be, and it could be tied to a specific group of customers that may or may not be your core focus. So if it is not your core focus, then don't take into consideration. But if it is, then maybe you can also do something with it. So that's just my take on this, trying to answer that question.
Thank you, Nicholas. So just to sum up, one of the simple and basic platform tool that one could start off with is Excel, yeah? Or the spreadsheet. Thank you so much. Yes, Alvin, I saw yourself unmuting.
Okay, maybe can screen share for see about the Google Analytics. Okay, wait.
Thank you. So participants, if you'd like to see Alvin's screen share, put yes into the comment section. And okay, no worries, Alvin has already screen shared. Okay.
Okay, so basically this is a Google Analytics from Google's demo, yeah. So if you learn from the Google Analytics, Google Ads certification, you can get the access for see the Google Analytics works. For example, I will try to answer the question how to translate the data into insight, yeah. Okay, first thing you must answer minimum is 5 plus 1 question. That is why, what, where, when, who, and how. For example, what people buy from your website. For example, in the Google merchandise, you can see they buy Google Unisex equity bag, Google utility backpack, and etc. This is the product what sold in the Google inventory, Google merchandise inventory. And we can sort by product revenue, must bring revenue for you, or maybe not bring revenue. You can adjust it, and we can see this the average of quality. For example, this the average quality people buy it. The white Google for Tumblr is 2 until 3. So maybe you can try if this is your website lah, yeah, you can try maybe bundling package because some people buying not only one product is 2 until 3 product. You can make the promo for the bundling product, for example, to increase your ABS or average basket size. This the what. Second is where people come, or yeah, we can see in the acquisition tab, in the overview, we can see the is. From 1 September until 19 September, we can see most people come from the direct, ad search, display, etc. And we can see the behavior of the website. For example, from the paid search is very high bounce rate. And in the display is high too, but the highest is the paid search. So maybe you can adjust your ads to more relevant, so the bounce rate will decrease, for example, like that. Where who you can make the audience personas from this Google Analytics. You can see what they use the language, or you can use the demographic, age, gender, etc. So from this Google Analytics, this is free, yeah, not Google Analytics 3060. I think this is, yeah. So this is free. You can doing for this. How to answer your question about how you can see the paneling for where they coming. For example, is assisted conversion. You can see in here, maybe so many people come from our channel, and yeah, etc. So this is just only basic what's that? The basic analytics. You can do that, and also you can use in the real time. You can see the real time where many people come from. Okay, currently is 16 people. From where you can see in the location where they come from. Oh, mostly from US, yeah. Yeah, US, India, Australia, Chile, Colombia, Japan, South Korea. So this is for the demos. For the overall, yeah, hopefully can your answer that is to translate from the data to useful information. Basically, you must answer 5 W and 1 H. That is what, why, where, who, when, and how they buy or not buy from you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Okay, let's go for our final sharing. Anyone apart from Nicholas and Alvin, because they've already shared. Dennis still say thanks, Alvin. Hanson or Stephanie, would you all like to give one last final example?
I can give one example. You know, I use Google Analytics a lot too. Another tool that you can use is Google Data Studio. So we use that a lot to build the dashboards. And let's say every month you're looking at a similar set of data that you want to see every month. For example, we used to do a lot of lead generation on digital channels, and I wanted to see, hey, which channel is bringing in the most traffic, and I wanted to monitor that consistently. So you set up your data studio, it will just pull up the data for you on a regular basis. So that's another one you guys can go and play around with. It's quite user-friendly as well.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Hanson, are you able to do a quick 30 seconds?
I think from a B2B lens, one of the ways that we can do it is also through HubSpot. So I think when you're dealing with B2B, you are dealing more with like CRM. And I think HubSpot also gives you that kind of ability of what you can see on Google Analytics, Google Data Studio, but from a more lead generation point of view.
Thank you. All right, so guys, looks like we are we've reached our time for today's panelists. On behalf of everybody over here, I would like to say thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your insights and giving the great example. And thank you so much for letting me journey with you guys for the past 16 minutes. And from here, I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna pass it back over to our MC, Lorraine.
Thank you so much, Daniel. All right, to everyone who's watching right now, let's give Daniel, Alvin, Stephanie, Nicholas, and Hanson a big round of virtual applause. Thank you so much for showing us how to work around big data, because I've always said it from the very beginning of today, that data is something that is so intimidating to so many people. So thank you for showing us the ropes on how to work around it, how we can find, an easier way to digest everything and to really, help us with our businesses and how we can really progress in this. So from all of us at Marketing Fest Asia 2021, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for all your input today. Thank you so much, you guys. All right, so I'll see you all soon. All right, anytime. We'll see you soon. Stay safe.
Bye.
All right, things up now.
Bye.
Bye.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.